So the first thing we've got to do is set up some game rules, and there are many more that we're going to change in this little segment, and I won't go into the ones I'm not changing, but these are the ones that we want to do on this server. I'm going to start off with a little demonstration, because we're going to have custom stuff on here that's activated by command blocks and the like. You're going to end up seeing text like this in your chat, which is probably not what you want, and you only see that if you're the operator on the server, which I am. Let's just do that one more time. So every time something custom happens between the command blocks, it can put that text into your chat, which you probably don't want. So over here we have a game rule for command block output. That is what you just saw on the screen, and we set that to false. So if we just go quickly back to this thing over here and run it again, we no longer see that text. So that's an important one that we're going to want to have on the server. Now, as well as that, log admin commands also does the same thing, but that's where it takes the command block output and it puts them into your log of actions that you've done in the world or on the server, and so you can reduce the size of that log by activating this one as well. So this game rule I would highly recommend setting to true. It is disable elytra movement check. Now, because it's got the word disable there, it's kind of like this bit works in reverse, right? We want to turn off the elytra movement check. And in my experience on Hermitcraft, this will basically kick people who are flying, which is something that you don't want. So when you set that to true, it no longer does extra checks on them. And this is probably going to be more important for players that have bad connections to the server, which we could potentially have if they're playing on the other side of the globe. So that's going to help them when flying with their elytra. Now the next one is do fire tick. We're going to set this to false like on Hermitcraft. We did this last season. It stops the spreading of fire, and I think that's a nice thing to do when it comes to aesthetics and not accidentally burning down people's bases, which can happen from lightning strikes, remember. There are weather events in this game that could target your roof made out of wood and burn it down to the ground, which is no good. Did we press the button? I'm going to press it again so we make sure we got that. The keep inventory game rule. We're going to set this to true, and that's probably going to divide opinions because a big part of this game is dying and losing all your items. You might fall into a lava and lose everything, or a mob might kill you, have to go on an epic journey to find your items again. With this game rule, when you die, you're going to respawn with absolutely all your items intact. That's everything in your inventory, your armor, it's all going to be there. And I know a lot of people are going to say it's a little bit cheaty, but there is a very good reason for doing this, and we've tried it on the vanilla server and it works out very well. This is going to be a large community with a lot of players. We're going to be doing group events, we're going to have people in crowds together, and players often get excited, they go around swinging their swords and accidentally kill other players. It's something that happens, and to avoid tensions between players and hurt feelings, this actually goes a really long way, because when someone gets accidentally killed, it's no big deal anymore. You know, you get to keep your items and move on with it. And so much so, where we've tried this on the vanilla patron server, we've never had a single issue with someone accidentally killing another player. And so much so, it's gone to become like a running joke. Players love to PvP and kill each other for fun because there is no consequence for it. And so with this game rule, you can just avoid a lot of hurt feelings, and I think it's an important thing that we're going to have here in this world as well. And then there's this command block at the end without a button. That's because we're not actually going to change this. We're going to leave it on default for now, but we will consider that the max entity cramming may get changed. This is a game rule that says you can't have more than a certain amount of mobs in a single area. So this comes down to building farms and things that can cause a lot of stress on the server. So we're going to leave that as default for now, which I believe is 20 or 24, something like that. And we may come back to this in the future and revise the game rule. Our next job is to set up the tracking of statistics in the world. This is where players do things like break sand blocks, and you're able to actually track them doing that and count all of the things that they have done. There is a whole range of different types of statistics, and doing this isn't going to have an impact on the server. It is extremely well optimized. You can track tons and tons of stuff at once, and it's absolutely fine. So I'm going to show you how this is done, and we're going to start off by adding a def counter to the server and displaying it in the tab screen. So the first command block that we've got right here is for the scoreboard command. We're going to create an objective by selecting that and add. We're going to call this objective defs, and then we're going to give it this statistic known as def count, which counts when you die. So let's go and activate that one right there. And then if we look at this one over here, we have scoreboard objectives. We're going to set the display on the list, which is the thing at the top of the screen when you press tab. And then we're going to select the objective that we just created, which is defs. So if we do that, we should now be able to press tab and see there's a big fat 0 because I haven't died on the server yet. Pretty cool, right? Now Now there is an absolute ton of stuff that you can track. So if we go into scoreboard, you'll see that there is objectives, players and teams. Right now we're just going to do stuff with objectives. We're going to add another one. We can list the ones that we got, we can remove them, and we can use set display as well. And I need to give it a name, so let's just type name for now. And then when I press tab this time, it's going to show me all the different stuff that I can track. And as you can see, it's an absolute ton of different things here. You can track every time someone used wheat seeds, for example. And I believe there is pages upon pages of this stuff. You can look it up on the wiki for a full list of things that you can track. We're not going to track everything. I'm just going to go with a select few things, which I'm going to set up in a moment off camera. Now, the other thing you can do with this command is go into objectives. You can set display, and you could put this in many different places, like below a player's name. So when you see another player on the server, it might display some information about them. We can put it in list like we just did, and the other one is sidebar. So if we go over here and type defs, we can also put defs on the sidebar like that. It will give you the player name, the number, and it will say what it is at the top. If ever you want to remove this though, or change it, what you want to do is go in here and remove that. So if you run the command with it blank, it then removes it from the place that you've said in the command, right? Pretty cool stuff. That's the basics of doing this. I'm now going to go through and set up all the statistics we're going to track, and then I'll tell you what those ones are. So we are going to be tracking an absolute ton of statistics. As you can see right here, there is a massive list of stats. And so what I want to do is make my life easier by having the commands I need to type in made for me, right? And you've got some of them made over here. Now also, by making a spreadsheet and doing this, we are keeping a record of everything that we've added to the server, which helps later on if you need to go and look something up. So I wanted this series to be about the administration stuff as well, so I thought I would show you what we are doing right now. So I picked out a massive list of stats, I put them in here, and now I'm writing the names of each of these stats. And what's really cool about this is it'll help you not put in the same name twice. So if I were to call this one Pig Ride, it'll show me that I've already called something Pig Ride, right? Luckily I haven't called anything Shulker Box yet, so we can add that in right there. Now what we want to do is get the spreadsheet to make a command, so we can copy this and enter them in one by one in the game. And what we need is two things. Up here you can see we've got text join, and over on this side we have something called consonantinate. I haven't attempted to say that word out loud before. But essentially what we're doing over here is we're combining these two cells together, right? Dive and stat.dive1cm get combined over here, and then this one allows us to take where we've combined those and combine it with text as well, because we've got text join, and then we have our /scoreboard objectives add. Now a cool thing with this is when you copy and paste it down by one, it knows to change the cell number it's looking at to the next one. So each time you copy it down by one, it's going to combine from the correct things over on this side, right? That's the power of spreadsheets. What you can also then go and do is drag this bit downwards, and it will do the copy and pasting for all of that right there. So once we've dragged it down on this section, it's then going to create the commands for all of those bits, right? So you can see the power of this. You can also see that we're adding a massive amount of statistics. I'm going to finish working through this spreadsheet, and then I'm going to go onto the server and I'm going to enter all of these in one by one, and that's going to set up all of the statistics that we're going to be tracking. All of the scoreboards have now been added and taken care of. We have just one more administrative job to do this episode, and that is to take care of the Enderman. So right now we are at the bottom of the world underneath the bedrock. We are in the spawn chunks. That means this will always be loaded wherever you are in the world, and I've added a command block here. This is a always active command block right here, so it's going to be running around the clock. Now the sign says anti-Enderman grief system. I know you can barely read that, but the point is always label your command blocks so you know what they are when you come back to them later. And we might be replacing this with a function in 1.13, as everything you see right here is probably going to change. But I'm going to walk you through this because it's really simple to understand. We're using the entity data command, okay? This is going to look for an entity, which is an Enderman, and it's going to change the data of that Enderman. So we specify here that we are looking for Enderman, and then this bit is very important. It means that we're looking for one that doesn't have the tag processed, and one of the things we will do is then give it a tag processed, because we're also going to change the block that it is carrying to a piston extension. Now this will appear invisible, and the Enderman won't be able to place it down on the ground, so it's the perfect block to put in its hands because it can't do anything else. So as well as doing that, we give it the tag processed, and that means that this thing doesn't target it ever again. Now if you're worried about this having an impact on the server, it doesn't. It is very, very friendly. It's a well written command, and what we should do first of all is test it. So I've given myself a strength effect so that I can kill this thing by punching it. If we spawn it in, you can see it's holding something in its hands. That's the piston block, and then we punch it and it's dead. Let's just spawn in another one. Bam, you can see straight away it's got a block it can't place down in its hands, and we can't see it either. So that is the Enderman taken care of. They're no longer going to be griefing the world, picking up blocks and making the terrain look ugly.